Welcome to Mattel's Plastic People.
Hello and welcome to episode number 3 of Mattel's Plastic People. That's a very awkward title. I might come up with something better later, but anyways, I got a tripod so you can actually see me this time. Don't worry, I'm not going to be in here long. I just wanted to experiment and see how this stuff works out. Maybe it'll make it better, maybe it'll make it worse, who knows. Anyways, in this episode I want to discuss the kind of evolution of how Mattel made their DC superhero 12-inch figures that were sort of modeled after the Marvel Titan figures, the inexpensive 12-inch figures that are mostly marketed toward children, but they are actually very good collectibles and very interesting, and they've gotten better and better over just the past few years. So anyways, I'm going to go into some detail here about how these have changed and become much more interesting and much more articulate. And you know, maybe it's something you weren't aware of, or maybe it's just the same old stuff, but hey, we're going to give it a shot. So this is episode 3, the evolution of the DC 12-inch cheap, toy-related, kid-related action figures. Okay, so what we have here are like the early examples of when Mattel started making their version of the cheap 12-inch action figure, sort of to compete with Marvel's Titan series. Marvel's Titan series action figures have very limited, or originally had very limited articulation. It was mostly head, shoulders, and legs, and they were very limited. They weren't ball socket. They just would go up and down and left and right. But here, Mattel right out of the gate with their like Batman and Superman, they made a very a large number of different characters. They are more articulate. They have a ball and socket shoulder. They have bending elbows. Of course, the head turns. And the hands can pivot. On most of the figures, I think some of the early female figures, the hands wouldn't pivot, but you know, you have here that. Now, there's no knee articulation. The legs are just stiff. And unlike the Marvels that originally just could go up and down, theirs can go out to the side, so they could do splits and kicks and whatever. So you have limited articulation, but it's better than what Hasbro did with Marvel. And of course, Batman here is very similar. They did different colors of him, but he also has the bending elbows and the not just bending, but twists back and forth, sort of a ball socket kind of a thing. But again, the knees solid, rock solid, cannot move. Unfortunately, that was like really painfully bad looking on the Flash action figure, whose power is that he can run really fast and he couldn't even bend his knees. But anyway, so and of course you see they got nice lovely cloth capes. I think even Hasbro did that with their Marvel figures. So this was how it began. I think this is like 2015. I could be wrong about that. And a big step up from Hasbro's Marvel Titan series, but it will get better as time goes by. Okay, now we jump ahead to the year 2016, and the Warner Brothers, DC Comics, they put out the movie Batman vs. Superman. A lot of critics are a little up in the air about the quality of it, but it did produce some really great toys. And so now we have Mattel being having the license to do the DC superheroes, did a set of figures for Batman versus Superman. So now, of course, the main ones, of course, is Batman and Superman. And Wonder Woman appears in the movie as well. They have a brief cameo of Corn on the Cob Man, I'm sorry, Aquaman. And you have the armored Batman, which is reminiscent of the comic book the Dark Knight Returns. So it's like this is where Batman puts on his armor so he can beat up on Superman, because it's dark. It's the way the DC Comics movies were, so he beats him up. And then you had in a exclusive in a set that came with all 6 of these figures. This is Lex Luthor, who looks, he's got a helmet, an unremovable helmet, so you can't see the face of the actor who was under here, so they didn't have to pay him a licensing fee. Surprise. But Luthor in the comics had a history of wearing armored suits, usually purple and green, and so here it is, purple and green. And so this exclusive figure came with a set of 6. So here we have the next step of the figures. Now these figures have more human figures. They're less cartoony, so they look more like the actors would be in the movie, although really does not look like Gail Gadot, I'm sorry. And the rest of the likenesses are not bad. Again, these figures are the same thing that we showed before. Their heads turn, they have the shoulders that sort of pivot, and they have the elbows and the twisting hands. But once again, their knees will not bend. So better articulation than the Marvel figures, but still limited in a way. But and there's no, and for the most part, there's no accessories. So they are just figures. They don't have any added features with them. I said whatever accessories they have, like Wonder Woman's rope, is molded on, and Aquaman's harness and shoulder armor is glued on. There is one thing about this Aquaman, though. His boots swivel, which is so he actually has more articulation than all the other figures. So you can turn his feet inside out, or make him pigeon-toed, or he can do like a wide stance. I really don't know how great that is for displaying, but there it is. He has that. So here we have, again, this is Batman versus Superman. It's the next step in the evolution of the DC Comics action figure for the 12-inch scale. Okay, so now here we are in we move ahead to the year 2017, and there is a new movie out called Justice League, the sequel to Batman versus Superman. And we have now an actual Justice League, an assortment of figures. These were available, sold separately. They also came in different gift packs of multiples. There are variations, but right now I'm just going to concentrate on the main figures. So again, you have Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, Cyborg, and the Flash. Now, the big change, of course, here now is that these are what are called True Moves figures. So they have the same articulation as the others, with the bending shoulders and twisty hands and the legs, but now their knees bend. So that's apparently what the difference is. It makes them True Moves figures. I believe Mattel first put bendable knees in their WWE 12-inch figures, which was a similar style. I don't know if they call them True Moves or not. But here, now the Flash can actually run. You can actually pose him running. You know, whatever. But so now you have much more realistic, and it just makes these so much better figures, and they pose very well. Wonder Woman, like some of the other female figures, her wrists do not turn. I think some of them do and some of them don't. And also, because of the way her hair is molded, her head can't turn at all. So she actually has less articulation because of her wrists and her hair. And I don't think Aquaman, or Corn on the Cob Man, this one doesn't look like Corn on the Cob, he looks more like an actual Aquaman, but his head won't turn either. So there you go. That's the Justice League from 2017. And I wanted to also point out that the figures now have more realistic style, scale and whatever. Now, the Batman versus Superman figures are a little taller. Maybe the extra plastic they used goes into making the articulation. I think the Aquaman is about the same size, but this Wonder Woman, of course, is much smaller, much more in scale with actual Gail Gadot or another female figure. As you can see, the older one was much bigger, much taller. The other thing that I noticed too is the Flash figure is one of the tallest ones of the group, and in reality, in the movie, the Flash was a much shorter character. I had a theory that the reason that the Flash is taller is because they made another figure that had like action figures where he could actually run. It's like you press something on his side and his legs go back and forth. So maybe they needed to have the basic long legs to make that running feature work, even though it's not a running feature in this figure. They probably kept the same basic mold or the same archetype to get going. So other than that, I mean, it's nothing wrong, but like I said, the Flash the actor and also the character were much shorter in the movie. But I definitely think these are a big improvement, especially the Wonder Woman, as you can see. So that's what you've got there. You've got the Justice League. And here's Superman. A friend of mine told me that Mattel is going to do a line of other DC superheroes to go along with the Batman missions. I'm really looking forward to that because I would like to see us finally get a Superman that looks like the classic Superman with the red underwear on the outside. We don't have that. This is the style from the last few years. They tried to make him hip or cool or interesting, and it's like, no, go back to the old George Reeve, Christopher Reeve, red underwear on the outside. And Wonder Woman. I hope when the new Wonder Woman movie comes out that we get a line of True Moves Wonder Woman action figures. I should not complain, I'm not a sculptor, but I really hope that the next attempt looks more like Gail Gadot. It's close, but it's not Gail Gadot, I'm sorry. But still, really great that they made these Wonder Woman action figures. Female figures are so underrepresented in a lot of toy lines, so I'm just happy that she exists. Okay, so lastly now, what I wanted to go to is the year 2018, and now we have what's called the Batman Missions figures, which are True Moves figures. These are not based on the movies, or they're more like just generic comic book or toys, but they still have the full True Moves articulation, and they're sculpted very realistically. There's a big difference between him and the early Batman figure. So, and of course there's all kinds of variations of these, and I'd like to go into some of these later. But see, as you can see, the evolution from the early 2015 Batman to a much more articulate, very well done action figure. Again, these are meant for primarily to be played with by children. They're not collectibles like the expensive Sideshow. There was a line of Mattel DC superheroes with a lot more articulation where you could turn every knuckle and every little freaking ankle. But these still serve a purpose of inexpensive collectible figures, toys for children, but also great collectibles. And it does appear that Batman has gotten shorter, just a little bit. That's okay. Still in the same scale. It could be that the extra plastic used to make more of the articulation went that way, but no complaints. So anyways, this is the evolution of the DC superhero Mattel 12-inch Titan Series-esque figure. And there they go. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Hopefully it wasn't too awful or too long or too boring. I hope I'll be back again with some more stuff. I've got some ideas for future episodes, some new cool stuff. I would like you also please to follow my other podcast, whatever you call it, kind of video thing. It's called Joby, a Movie and a Bottle of Wine, in which my friend Joby reviews movies and bottles of wine. So until next time, this is Matt Pox Plastic People saying, I don't know, bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Matt Pox Plastic People.